It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We all know the famous story of Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon. But before he or any other humans became astronauts, animals encountered space. The animals were trained to be sent to space so we could study the effects of weightlessness on life. Evidence needed to be gathered so advancements in technology could be made, which would eventually send the first humans to space, Neil Armstrong to the moon, and determine who would ultimately win the space race. Even before any astronauts were sent, the first animals in space were floating around on chunks of rock before humans were alive. These creatures, called tardigrades or water bears, are 8-legged microscopic organisms known to survive the most extreme conditions, including the vacuum of space, unprotected except for their exoskeletons. Tardigrades can survive because they curl up and dehydrate, which allows them to live without water, in extreme cold or heat, and even in space until conditions improve. Unfortunately for the animals sent thousands of years later by humans, they didn't have this special type of protection and needed vehicles to carry them to space. The animals rode in the nose cone of the rocket and often made water landings on their return trips. The animals were trained for extended periods to be able to withstand the small compartments they'd be riding in the extreme speed and pressure they would need to withstand. However, in the case of Laika, a stray dog, minimum training had been administered. Laika was a Russian cosmonaut that became the first living creature in space on November 3, 1957, beating out all the other animals that were only launched into suborbital flights. Laika was found on the street a week before the scheduled launch. Although she died several hours after takeoff from panic and overheating, her flight gave the Russians a powerful advantage in the space race. Albert I, an American astronaut, was the first primate launched into space. He didn't survive, however, similar to the many other animals that came after him. Just 5 months after Laika, the United States launched the series of 3 mice to try to improve re-entry strategies. All of the mice perished. It took until 1960, 3 years after the start of the space race, for animals to orbit the Earth and be recovered alive. This was accomplished by Russian cosmonauts Belka and Strelka, 2 dogs that made their first flight on August 19, 1960. Aboard the flight with them were 40 mice, 1 rabbit, 2 rats, and 15 flasks of fruit flies. Later in her life, Strelka gave birth to a litter of puppies, all in good health, one of which was given to John F. Kennedy's children. On January 31, 1961, a 4-year-old chimpanzee named Ham became the first chimpanzee in space. His mission went slightly higher and faster than expected, but Ham was recovered and lived until 1980. His mission was a gateway for the first successful human astronaut, Alan B. Shepard Jr., who was launched 4 months later on May 5, 1961. All kinds of animals have been to space, even cats. Felicity was a French cat that became the first feline in space on October 18, 1963. Although no videos were taken during her flight, an informative production made by the Department of the Air Force in 1947 shows how cats react under weightlessness.
In these experiments, you can see the disorientation resulting when an animal is suddenly placed in a weightless state. Cats, when dropped under normal conditions, will invariably rotate their bodies longitudinally in midair and land on their feet. This automatic reflex action is almost completely lost under weightlessness.
The Soviet Union launched 2 dogs, named Ugailok and Vitorok, on February 22, 1966, with the intention of gathering data on the effects of prolonged space exposure. They set a canine record of 21 days that still stands today and wasn't broken by humans until June of 1974, which was 8 years later. Even though humans have traveled to space successfully many times, experiments are still conducted in the International Space Station using animals.